Hey, it's Cristobal Maximus out on the road once again, and today I am at a place called Park City, Kentucky. And Park City sits along 31W, which runs kind of parallel to I-65. 31W used to be known back in the early 1800s as a stagecoach route, and it was called the Louisville and Nashville Turnpike. The history of this little town, it had a few names. It's currently called Park City. Prior to that, it was Junction City. Prior to that, it was Bell's Station, and before that, it was Three Forks. It's had a bunch of names. And I'm going to show you why it was called Bell's Station. This goes back to started in the 1840s, and then that changed in the 1860s. But this was this little town here developed as a kind of a junction on 31, because the stagecoaches would come here and then they would branch off into different areas like Bardstown, Kentucky. They'd go towards Nashville or towards Louisville if you were going south or north. It would go to Glasgow, things like that. They changed their name to Park City. They did not want to be confused with any other towns in Kentucky. And also, Mammoth Cave was a park at that time in 1926, and they decided to change their name to that. There were excursion trains out of here from right behind me, and I'll show you where that was. But there were excursion trains from this little town over to Mammoth Cave and Diamond Caverns, which is also near here. So people would come here and take a little short train ride over to the caves and spend their day over there and come back here and stay at the hotels in this town. There were no town hotels any closer to Mammoth Cave than this for many, many decades. And so let me turn the camera around and I'm going to show you what's left of Bell's Tavern and tell you a little bit about this place. So this is the ruins of Bell's Tavern, and actually it's the second part of Bell's Tavern. The original one burned, and in the 1860s the owners of that property tried to rebuild. They ran out of money, and so the ruins that you see here today are the ruins of their incomplete tavern that they were trying to put back. It's interesting. It sits in the middle of a park. They've turned this area into a city park. When I told you earlier, trains used to leave to go to Mammoth Cave, the area right over there where that pavilion sits was a small train depot. And all the signage around here explains how that worked. But the tracks are still here. The L&N Railroad came along and laid these tracks. The train just went by here a minute ago. But these tracks spelled the doom of the stagecoach routes back in the 1800s. People would just take the train. A whole lot faster and more convenient, for sure. But the tracks still run through here. They kind of cut this town in half. I'll go over to the other side of town and do a little bit of video of a drive through of that, what's left over there. It's one of those towns that's been kind of bypassed. When I-65 was built, it took a lot of the traffic away from 31, and a lot of these little towns really suffered as a result. They just didn't have the passing traffic, and they didn't have the people coming through. So the folks that are left here, and there's not a lot of industry in this area. There is it's mostly farming and rural out here. There's not a whole lot to do work-wise. You travel into Bowling Green, or you travel into, north of here towards Louisville, Bardstown areas. Anyway, this is interesting that it still stands. There's the sign. Bell's Tavern, erected by William Bell, 1830. Stage stop for his lines that brought visitors to Mammoth Cave when first promoted. Famed in U.S. and Europe for elite patrons, cuisine and magic peach and honey brandy for joy before the journey's end. How you like that? Until it burned in 1860. Civil War doomed the completion of the new tavern, begun by grandson William F. Bell and his stepfather George M. Proctor. So this has been sitting here all those years, incomplete, and just as kind of a reminder of things from the past. This property Mr. Bell owned was part of a 1,600-acre plantation. I haven't been able to find out a whole lot of information on it. What I did find talked about there being a orchard back here in that field back there. So there's a couple of wells here, original wells on the property. They're deep too. Hand dug wells. Here's one. There's one over there. Let's look at this one. There's also a hotel over there we're going to walk over and check out real quick. And I believe that is used today as a venue of some sort. I don't know. We're going to walk over and check it out. But let's look at this. Most people fill these things in. Look at that. Look, you can see kind of the old stone where it's stone lined. But you just got this old hole going down. It's hard to see with the camera, but there is water down at the bottom of there. There's another well over there. It's the same way. There's another one right behind me. This might have been more of a cistern, but either way. It's a beautiful area. Very well maintained. And it's not all that far off the beaten path. It's not hard to get here if you're traveling on I-65. Well, let's see. Oh, it's an old well. Look. Let me see let's see if we can see the well down in there. Hand dug well. Stone line. Kind of cool. Now, let's go over to the Grand Victorian Inn here. I don't know much of the history on this place, but it is a neat looking building. Oh, look at the old cars here. Look at that. That's really cool. All right, I'm going to stop and pick up again when I walk over that way. All right, I've walked down the road a little bit. We are at the Grand Victorian Inn Bed and Breakfast. Look at the beautiful building. It says Ment's Hotel above the door. I'm not really sure about the history of that, but if I can find something more on it, I'm going to put a link below in the comments. What a beautiful grounds. Look at that. Isn't that something? Let's see, Ment's Hotel. Now right across the street is the tracks that I talked about earlier. Still here. Still in use. Except for this part. This is part of the original L&N Railroad here. Now, those tracks still get use over there, but look at this. See the concrete curbing right along here? There used to be a station here. This was where you would come and get off the train or hop on the train, and you could catch yourself an excursion over to Diamond Caverns or Mammoth Cave. And from the looks of these tracks, they haven't been used in a really long time. These ties are just rotten. But they're still here. I guess it was cheaper to leave them. A lot of places, at least in Kentucky where we live, when they were done with the tracks, they pulled them up for one reason or another. The scrap metal value is high, and a lot of times right after World War II, when things were abandoned, they pulled the tracks up for the war effort, for the steel. But every now and then you'll find them left. But yeah, this was all a platform along here. It was pretty large. It ends maybe, 40 yards down the way. And now everything that was here is gone. Let's go back over to the car. I'll take you to the other side of the track and go around the town a little bit. Okay, we got in the car and drove to the other side of town. Oddly enough, the tracks kind of separate the town. You used to be, it looks like, able to drive across in a few places, but no more. You have to go kind of to the west, about a little over a quarter of a mile, across the tracks and come back. So we just drove on over to the town proper, if you will. I am on Mammoth Cave Avenue in Park City, Kentucky. So let's see what else there is to see down here. Check a few old buildings down that way. Nothing of note. There's a few folks sitting out on their porches. I don't really want to bother. But very quiet. I'll go down here towards City Hall. The oldest of the buildings do face the track. Here we have City Hall and the Tourist Information Bureau, which all this is closed. I'm here on a Sunday evening. We got Welcome to Kentucky's Cave Country Map. Got City Hall, 1951. Let's see, we've got the Mason's Lodge. Every town has a Mason's Lodge. Anybody watching this that knows, let me know in the comments how many of these are actually still in use, because a lot of them looking kind of rough these days. And I don't know if you can read that very well, but in the tile there it says Park something Bank. It looks empty now. There's not a bank in here now. Let's see what's in here. I don't know. Looks like a little kitchen, like a community center or something. But it's definitely not a bank anymore. We got there's our Jeep. The Park City Senior Center. And then here's the main town square. We got Louisville Road and Mammoth Cave Avenue. I'm sure there are probably a few historic homes around. I wish I knew a little bit more to tell you about it, but we're just driving through and I'm telling you what I see and what I do know about the place. It's kind of a neat old building there. You see a lot of those in the South, I'm sure in other places, but early 1900s. And that's more like 1940s or 50s there. We got Miss Betty's Diner. I bet you there's some good food at Miss Betty's Diner. A lot of these towns, you find just the absolute best food in these places. Let's see what's going on over here. Today they closed early, 2 p.m. It's Miss Betty's Diner. Southern home cooking. Yeah, that's the best kind. These little home cooking places, little back roads restaurants that we run across have some of the absolute best food that you can find anywhere. It's probably why I'm overweight. We find plenty of that. Nice little mural. Park City, Kentucky's got the train from its history of trains going to Mammoth Cave. Got the post office over here. And that looks to be about it, other than some houses, which a lot of people sitting on their porches, and I just don't want to bother people today on this nice Sunday evening sitting out minding their own business. So I think I'm going to go ahead and end it here. If you're ever along this way in the Mammoth Cave area, I would recommend strongly driving through here and at least checking it out. It looks like an absolutely gorgeous place to visit. And try Miss Betty's Diner out for a really good home-cooked meal. I'm sure it's absolutely fantastic. And as always, have a great day.